And apart from the next three, is they want stability in Washington, D.C. Well, how many of you are in favor of chaos all the time? Right? So they're clever, they have smart lawyers, and they know how to word things, right? But what does that mean? If you want stability in Washington, D.C., what does that mean? That means you're going to kick the can down the road on the most fundamental problems we have in this country right now, right? The debt is $17 trillion and growing as the ticker spins so fast you can't keep up with it. The unfunded liabilities are how big? $127 trillion in that ballpark. Go out to the world debt clock and it's all sitting right there. And both parties, both sides of leadership like playing with $4 trillion worth of your money, right, called the budget. And so they're not fighting hard on those issues. Obamacare goes through. Who's fighting against that on the Republican side? Who's fighting that thing, right? Not really, not a fight. And why is that? Because who gets exempted from Obamacare? Keep your eye on this one. Who gets exempted?
Congress.
Good. That's politicians and unions and big business. And that's the one to keep an eye on. If big business would have to go through the pain that we're all going through, would that bill have ever passed in a million years?
No.
Absolutely not. So this logic applies to every single issue. So that number one principle Eric runs on is stability in Washington, D.C., kick the can down the road. Second one from the Business Roundtable is corporate tax reform. That's fine, we need it. Corporate tax rate is too high, we need to lower it. But interestingly, whose name isn't mentioned there? Corporate tax reform, but anything for you, for the people, flat tax, fair tax, nothing. Right? So corporate interests get the ear of Congress and you don't. Third, they want free trade. I don't know why free trade is so complex that you need to put it down on paper, right? So when lawyers when they want to talk about we need free trade, I think what that means is they want a special deal when it comes to trade, right? Free trade doesn't require too much negotiation. You just go trade. And fourth, and most importantly, and the big issue that's coming up, big business wants amnesty. They want immigration reform. And Zuckerberg and the big bucks are funding that fully, and Eric Cantor was on the Sunday talk shows 2 weeks ago with Major Garrett and advocating and putting principles forward on immigration. Right now, why does big business want immigration? And it's pretty simple. Because they get cheap labor. Well, when the labor supply, everybody go like this, supply and demand, everybody do this right now. When the supply of labor goes up, right, when the supply of basketballs go up, I lectured on that this morning, when the supply curve goes up, price goes down, right? The wage rate goes down. Who gets the wage rate? U.S. workers, right? So big business gets cheap labor, and what do people in the 7th District get? Lower wages, higher unemployment rates, and that's just part one. Part two of the problem there is who foots the bill? Right now in Virginia, what's a 1 year in K-12 education cost? $12,000, right? Who pays for that? All the welfare provisions with immigration. Does big business pay that tab? No, you will pay that tab. So it's a great deal for big business, but a raw deal for the people. So there's the Business Roundtable chamber agenda, right? Now let's contrast that with the Republican creed, and I won't keep you here all night, right? But there's 6 planks there, and number one is a commitment to free markets. And I'm a free market economist. And the key isn't always what you do, what you vote on, whatever. The number one issue, if I went to Congress, and the number one thing I hold against Eric Cantor is how he's been there while Fannie and Freddie just went along and did their thing forever. Right? 70%, I read today, American Enterprise Institute, 70% of all subprime loans went through Fannie and Freddie. Go over that in slow motion in your head. 70% of all subprime loans didn't go through bankers, right? Bankers their job is to do risk. Fannie and Freddie, is their job to do risk or to put the risk on your back, right? So they did that, and there was only one sector in the United States that we had not screwed up yet. And what was that? Housing, right? So the geniuses up there on Wall Street and in the government finally figured out if you package a bunch of this junk with a mortgage, that's safe, right? And they ruined that. So the housing crisis turned into a financial crisis, and we're still trying to get our way out of that one to this day, right? The labor force participation rate is going down, 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 year after year after year. right? So when you talk about free markets, that's just the beginning. Let me go through a few more votes that Eric has taken when it comes to free markets. Eric voted for TARP. Eric voted for bailouts to China, big banks, and Wall Street cronies, and government bureaucrats. Just recently, he voted for the Farm Bill. Have you all followed the Farm Bill? The free market solution there would be to separate, right, the Farm Bill, which is a pork barrel politics project, from the food stamp program. And they were going to do that, and they didn't even get that far. So both of them go through, and the Farm Bill funding goes to who? The small American farmer who we all like? No. Huge agribusiness. And so the logic just over and over and over is the same thing. He worked to break private sector AIG contracts. After the financial crisis, this is a shocker. How many people went to jail? Yeah, 2. I think that's about right. Right? Instead of going to jail, where did all the crooks go? Onto the Rolodex of the Obama administration and the Republican leadership. Right? So the rule of law, equality under the law, do you believe in that? I believe in it, but it's fading, right? There's special deals for everyone. Regulation is killing the small guy. How many of you in here are small business or know small business people? How many people think regulation is a major problem in your business? Right? You can go right now and think of your house. You can't think of one thing in your home that's not regulated. Right? Down to the $8 light bulb. Right? Everyone in this room, a lot of people are doing okay. There's a lot of people not doing okay. Instead of buying an $8 light bulb, they could buy ham and cheese for their kids' school lunch. Right? These kind of things do matter to average people with low incomes, middle incomes. Regulation does hurt people. That was point number 1. I got 5 more to go. How you doing? I'll go quicker. I'm a professor, so I like to chat. Glad you're in a good mood. All right, 2, I'll make it real quick. Equal rights, so this is the second plank of the Republican Creed. Equal rights and justice for all. Let me go over this one just with one example. It's all I need. For me, it's an impeachable offense, and it's called the Stock Act. And I'm not going to go over it in detail. You go Google it. CNN investigated it. It was on 60 Minutes. This is after the financial crisis, right? After what we're just talking about. It brought our nation to its knees. The Stock Act was a bipartisan bill making its way through Congress. And it was going to finally bring insider trading to an end by members of Congress. Right? So these guys are already rich, right? And gals. And they can go talk to any CEO at any time and know what's going to happen. And a new patent comes out, and you can basically just lock into multi-million-dollar bets. Right? You just instantly, you can guarantee and lock in millions if you're doing insider trading. So the Stock Act was going to put an end to that. Okay, that's a miracle. So something good was going to happen in D.C., and it was going through. Went through the Senate, and then the language mysteriously changed when it hit one office of Congress. And whose office was that?
Cantor.
Eric Cantor, single-handedly changed the language on that thing to allow family members of Congress to still do insider trading. If your family members can still do insider trading, you can still do insider trading, right? And so, on the one hand, that's funny and it's a chuckle. On the other hand, the gazillionaires have taken the cream off the top, and what are we all left with? Crooks. The S&P 500 and crooks. Right? And that seriously is when somebody gets caught, right? I'm a teacher. When a kid in the back row gets caught cheating, is that the first time? So when you talk about character, when you get caught doing that one for me is an impeachable offense, right? It's time to go. You've been there too long. That's why term limits. The money just goes to their head up there, and you got to go. On equal treatment under law, just amnesty fits there well also, right? I mean, some people are doing it the right way. They're waiting in line. They're doing the bureaucracy. They're following the rules. And then we're going to treat equally folks who have the first act in the United States is to break the law. Is that equal treatment under the law? No. All right, that's 2. We're making our way. 3, fiscal responsibility. You can laugh. I've said enough already, right? I heard on the radio station on the way in here, one of the radio guys said, why would somebody challenge Eric Cantor? Da, 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 da. You know, he's going to be so powerful and whatever, and we might win the Senate next time. So then they'll do everything right, right? The Congress, and if you win the Senate, we'll get all right. Wrong. And what's the evidence for that proposition? The evidence is that back in '02, when we had the House and the Senate and the White House, Eric Cantor voted to increase the debt ceiling in 02, 03, 04, 06, and 07. I don't know what happened in 05. Right? Maybe they skipped the vote. Right? So that's your evidence. Right? The debt ceiling was going up. The debt had already gone from 4 to 9 trillion before Obama came in. So Obama is to blame for another doubling, right, from 9 to 17 trillion, but the debt had already gone to 9 with Republican leadership in place. And so if you're for fiscal responsibility, you got a problem with the current Republican leadership right now. On top of that, add in Cantor votes on No Child Left Behind. How are we doing in education in the world? Bottom of the industrialized world for science and math, right? Bottom of the industrialized world. The Patriot Act, creation of Homeland Security, 2 unfunded wars, Medicare, prescription drug plan D, and the list goes on and on and on. More recently, the leadership brought an end to sequester. That was the only thing that had any budget discipline to it, and they brought that to an end and found the savings for that from the veterans. And the veterans are not happy about that at all. Not happy. All right, and so number 4, fourth point of the Republican principles are constitutional limitations, and I know people in this room, I see all sorts of faces, you know more about this than I do, but you can just go right down the list, right? Outrageous spying of the NSA, IRS investigations of grassroots folks in this room. There's examples of that where your own government's coming down against you. That is not constitutional limitations. Now the big thing is the president admits and goes on TV and says, I'm going to get out my pen and just start executive fiat down the line, right? I'm going to use my pen, and the executive branch is going to outdo the branch closer to the people, the Congress. Unconstitutional, has to end. Number 5, strong national defense. I think everyone in this room is